Hello again, friends. We're going to finish up our saute class today with some sauteed apples. These are my absolute favorite to have as a side dish for dinner. So let's get started. Okay, friends, so today we get to use my favorite kitchen tool, not my hands. Remember that from the sausage balls. This is an apple core peeler slicer. Yes, I knew it did 3 things. Okay, so you can certainly core and peel your apples with a knife, but this is really fast and really cool. So I just stick the apple on here, turn the handle, and it takes out the center and it takes off all the peel, and so I just have to take off that little piece and that little ugly piece and cut it in half. And then we have apple slices. How cool is that? This is my favorite. Okay, so we're gonna put those back in the bowl. Remember to wash your apples before we get started. Well, I'm peeling them, so washing them is not as important because you're taking all of that off. All right. All right. See how cool that is? Love this little thing. Okay, so I'm going to get the rest of these peeled and cored and sliced, and I'll be back. Okay, so our apples are all peeled and sliced, and if you notice, some of them are kind of brown and maybe have bruises on them. These apples are very, very ripe. This is a really good way to use up a lot of apples if they've sat on your counter for a while and they're kind of mushy, because we're going to make them really mushy. So also, these are Granny Smith apples, which are very tart. They're the apples you would use in apple pie. You can use this as an apple pie filling or a tart filling, but I like to just eat them as a side dish for dinner. So so these are tart, and we're going to put a lot of sugar in while we're making them to saute them. So they're going to be sweet with just a little bit of tart. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to put some butter into the pan, a couple of tablespoons. And we're gonna get that melted. This is one of the recipes that I don't measure really anything because I just do what looks good. Okay, as soon as the butter starts to melt and is covering the bottom of the pan, we're going to put the apples in. My little slicer kind of puts them all together, so I want to break them apart. They don't have to stay this shape. You can cut them smaller. This is, of course, just how my little cutter does it. So I just do the easiest thing. Okay, we're just going to let that get warm up a little bit. Now you'll see that, remember how with our ground beef it turned brown when it cooked? You'll see that so do the apples. Now apples you can eat raw, because they're a fruit, they're not a meat. So you don't have to cook them until they're brown, but for the ground beef, you do have to cook until it's brown because you don't want to eat any of the red. All right, so we're going to put some brown sugar. We're going to just sprinkle it on the top. I'm going to put in a couple of tablespoons. The brown sugar and the butter are going to mix together and make kind of a syrup. Oh, this is so yummy. So you can also use this if you cook it for just a couple of minutes and the apples are still crispy. Excuse me. You can use it for, like I said, a side dish for dinner, or you can put it in apple pie. You can also cook it a little bit longer and make the apples a little more mushy, which is how I like it. You can use it for an ice cream topping or topping for a cake. So any of those things will work. It's just a sweet topping. Also, I sauteed some bananas, and I will put a picture of that at the end of this video so you can see the bananas. You do the bananas the same way. You cut them up, put butter in the pan, put the bananas in, and then put the brown sugar on top. And I used that to put on my vanilla ice cream, and it was awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna saute these for a little bit. I'll be back to let you see what it looks like. You can see the brown sugar kind of makes them turn a little bit brown, but when we come back, they're gonna be really brown. Okay. All right, so you can see the apples are getting brown. You can see the butter and the brown sugar mixing in there to make the little sauce. And the apples are getting a little brown. They're still kind of crunchy, so you could stop cooking now. I've been cooking for about 6 or 7 minutes. You could stop cooking now and just eat these as a side dish for dinner, or put them in a pie. You wouldn't put all of this in the pie because that's kind of runny and it would make your crust kind of soft. But I'm going to keep cooking. Now, if you cook long enough, which might be hours, you could actually make something a consistency of applesauce. So the longer you cook it, the softer the apples get. All right, so we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, so now we've been cooking for about 12 minutes. And you see the apples are really floppy. Okay, they're really floppy. They're really yummy and soft. Okay, this is about how I like it. Maybe even a little bit more if I'm going to put it on ice cream, but I'm going to eat this for dinner. So, and you see how the butter and the sugar are all bubbly. All right, so our sauteed apples are finished for now. So we'll move on to something else. Have a wonderful day, guys. This is the same recipe, only with bananas. Melt the butter first, put in the brown sugar, and then cut the bananas up and saute them until they're nice and soft.